Okay, now, this is a very important one. When you write about action in a sentence, and when you're telling a story, and pretty much anything that you write about, even if it's academically, we're not writing fiction, okay? We're writing about research and results and so on. There's going to be action in your sentences. And action can be expressed as either a verb or as a noun. Now that might not be intuitive, but what happens is we nominalize verbs, right? So let's look again at these two sentences here. In the first sentence, it says that Locke frequently repeated himself because he did not trust the power of words to name things accurately. Okay. Now, repeated is obviously the past tense of the verb repeat. It's an action. So is trust and name. But if you look in the second sentence, those verbs have been nominalized. They've been expressed not as verbs, but as nouns. So repetition is the noun form of the verb repeat. Naming is the noun form of name, okay? And this creeps in naturally to our writing. If I write about, if I'm in the legal fraternity, for example, and I write about the decision of the High Court to overturn the judgment, for example. Now, I've converted the verb decide into decision. And what happens is, again, when you do that, like in the previous example, when we make subjects obscure and abstract, we add words into the sentence. So this is, thanks, Cindy. I'm glad that was helpful. This is another way in which inadvertently and unintentionally we add extra words into our sentences. We clutter sentences unnecessarily with words when we either make our subjects obscure and abstract, or when we nominalize verbs as it's been done there into the noun form of that action or that specific activity. Okay, right. Thank you for that feedback there, Cindy. Felicia says, I'm constantly told that I have run-on sentences in my essays. I'm not sure how I can deal with these. Okay, so there's probably a couple of thoughts there, Felicia. Writing is not a running commentary. So remember that you will go through your research, you will follow a certain journey. In your writing, you're not narrating that journey. You're telling the story of a scientific method, right? So in your methodology section, you describe the process you're going through. That is the strict storyline that you're telling. You're not telling the story of what you did as a researcher. You are reconstructing that method from the beginning to the end for your examiner. And in essays, just to pick up on what you're talking about here, I think you might be doing a little bit of narration as opposed to reconstruction in the proper form and to answer the specific question that the essay is asking. And in fiction, you can get away with what you are being called there as run-on sentences because you actually are building suspension and tension through the anticipation of some sort of outcome or result from page to page and chapter to chapter, and that is the writing technique of fiction. But the writing technique of academics is to be very much more structured and scientific in what it is that you're communicating. And if you are writing run-on sentences, then it's kind of like going down a water slide. There's no conclusion, as we've spoken about. There's no, structure and logical moving of your reader from one thought and topic to the next. And just, you look at the next few thoughts and topics that I'll go through, and Felicia will help you as well. Great to have Gerald from University of Johannesburg. Welcome, Gerald. Good to have you with us here as well. Kapana, when you use simple or clear English, your writing becomes boring. Kapana. So that's exactly what I was saying just now. We're not writing fiction. We're not writing work. Our writing is not meant to create suspense. I always say, an abstract it's not a murder mystery. You actually somebody should be able to read your abstract and then they don't have to read your final report. And that's quite a tragedy for us, because we put all our effort into that final report. We want people to read. And like we said just now, we write run-on sentences because we actually want to keep people going through, our writing. In fact, the less people have to read of our writing, the better the job we've done as a researcher. If they want more information, then they can go into it and they can understand your method. And why are they reading your method? This is very important, because they want that you've created results and findings from your academic method that is generalizable, okay? So they want to be able to repeat your method. So they read your method for their research, not because they want to read a suspense novel. So academic writing, look, I think there is certainly a way that you should write that has some impact on the reader, but it should be boring in the sense that you're conveying material in a structured, clear, and meaningful way. If people want to get excitement, they'll read fiction, they'll read novels, they'll read suspense. That's not the role of academic writing. So, Kupano, I don't think it's bad to have boring writing, and I think it's good to use simple and clear English. That just be my thoughts on that one. And then Adolf says this order is crucial: precise, clear, and brief. Yeah, be brief, be clear, be gone. And talk about that in the course quite a little bit. So you'll enjoy the course, Adolf, because there's a little bit of that in there as well. Okay, Carabello from University of Pretoria, fantastic to have you on board. Hope this is being useful for everybody. Okay, so here's sort of what we were talking about just now, and here's a couple more examples of how we take verbs and then we nominalize them. So decide becomes decision, fail becomes failure, resist, resistance, precise, precision, frequent, frequency, intelligent, intelligence, okay? We must always go back to the original form of the action and put it in the verb form. We must always go back to the most clear and concise and concrete form of the subject, that is the main character or doing thing, person, place in the sentence that we're writing.